Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having a great day. Hey, if this is the first time you're joining us here on Computer America, well, we have a great show planned for you because we have a full show dedicated to the latest and greatest computer and technology news. And this is a segment where we try to explain, the latest updates to products or newsworthy stories or just things that are happening, keeping you informed and keeping you up to date, because we know it can be quite the hassle. And hey, let us do the work for you. All you have to do is sit back and relax. But before we get into that, a couple of things, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything and anything having to do with today's show. So we're going to cover a lot of different topics, a lot of different subjects. And if you want a link to any of those, you can find them in the show notes right there at our homepage. Find it right there today. And while you're there, be sure to check out the social media contest brought to you by Logitech, of course. And also be sure to check out the live video feed, which is, featured on Twitch, but as well at you can find a link to it at our website at computeramerica.com. So with all that being said, why don't we just go ahead and get started with computer and technology news. So let's actually do that. So everyone, once again, this is brought to you by OWC. So here we go. All right, so for today's first topic, I think we're going to go ahead and, I think we're going to put a ribbon on this one, put a bow on this one. This is a story we followed for a long time, and partially because, it was so darn cute. There weren't really two ways about it, and it was really, really worth checking out. So let's see. So why don't we go ahead and so why don't we go ahead and talk about this all right, there was a monkey, and supposedly at some point he got himself the rights to, his own photograph. And it was a photo. The story went something along the lines of the macaque, I think it was, got a photographer's photo, his camera, and took a selfie. He was looking down at the camera, and he took a rather charming selfie. And what happened next was that I believe he tried to take credit for his photo because it was on his camera, and I think it was PETA actually filed a lawsuit. People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals filed a lawsuit claiming that Naruto was actually, and Naruto, by the way, is the name of the monkey, claiming that he had rights to it, because as an animal, I guess they felt that because he took the photo, the photographer had no right to monetize the video or, any kind of revenue from his photo. And again, this really wouldn't be a big deal if the photo wasn't really used, but it was everywhere a year or two ago. It was, something really worth seeing. So with that being said, we've been following up until this point, and now we can finally put some kind of, just some kind of ribbon on this, some kind of bow. And let's go ahead and talk about this. So this article coming to us from Ars Technica, and unfortunately for Naruto the monkey, they said that the lawsuit finally ends and the court affirms that the adorable macaque cannot sue. So, a federal appeals court in San Francisco ruled Monday that the crested macaque does not have a legal standing to file a copyright claim against a nature photographer. That's right. And it's because of the simple fact that, well, he is not a person. And that's really what it comes down to. The monkey is not a person, and really, it doesn't really need to go much further than that. So, yeah, let's see. Of course, the case dates back to 2011. It's, I'm doing something. There we go. So, dates back to 2011, and it's the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals now affirmed the decision that despite the fact that the lawsuit was settled in September, and by the way, the photographer, if you want a happy ending out of all this, agreed to donate 25% of all future revenue of the image to the reserve where the monkey lives. So, hey, a little bit of silver lining. But I think we're going to leave it there. But again, just something to kind of think about. There was a case where do monkeys have the right to claim photographs of themselves? And we can safely say that no, officially they cannot. All right, so there was that one, and why don't we go ahead and move on to the next one? So it's not quite as compelling as copyright claims, but at the same time, this struck a lot of nerves with a lot of people because Apple, John Deere, a lot of other tech companies, they are moving towards a future where you are not allowed to repair your smartphone. And if you wanted to repair your smartphone or even any of your devices that you purchase from these companies, essentially it's called the right to repair. And these companies would rather you not mess with the products that you purchase from them because they say that the software that goes into it, rather, is property of, well, the company that you purchased it from. So this has been seen in a lot of cases, such as Apple. This has been seen in cases, I mentioned John Deere. John Deere, because if you buy a $250,000 tractor and the software that runs this farming equipment, which is not very simple, I mean, hey, it's a rather complex piece of equipment. The software that runs that has to be continuously updated, and they say that if you make any alterations to that software, you're breaking the terms of service and you're not allowed to do that, which has left a lot of farmers in a bind. So all this comes together into the idea that the consumer wants to fix it. They want to take it to a third party. They want to repair it themselves. Any number of, different, kind of ways to say it. And again, the companies don't want you to do that, either because they want to defend the integrity of their product or they want to earn money off of repairing services. But suffice to say, this all came up once again with the latest update of iOS 11. And it was an update that, when you updated to iOS 11.3, if you had taken your smartphone, if you had taken your Apple iPhone 8 and you had to replace the screen. So, we've seen this a number of times. When you replace certain parts of factory original Apple hardware, for one reason or another, they don't play nicely with not even counterfeits, but replacement hardware. Hardware that may be purchased from third-party vendors that supposedly work just fine with Apple. And we see instances of things like the Apple fingerprints reader not working or certain things. This is taking it to a whole new level, though. When they had shipped out the iOS 11.3 patch, anyone who had replaced their iPhone 8 screen with instead when they had shipped out the new update, anyone who had replaced the screen with a third-party screen where it may have worked before the update and then after the update, a lot of screens went black. A lot of screens that were non-genuine replacement displays were shut off for one reason or another. And many people claim, as I said kind of at the top of the story, that it was Apple's way of sticking it to people who didn't go through the official Apple repair system. Instead, they took it to a third party. Third party uses the cheapest parts they can find. And, again, cheapest parts, but also working parts. And Apple retaliated in some kind of, switch that killed these phones. And that was not the case. They said it was a bug, and yeah. So they said that the Apple iOS update 11.3.1 will likely be available to customers soon. And yeah, that supposedly fixes the problem and turns those screens back on and makes them responsive once again. So, as some aftermarket companies claim, they could also be a way to damage trust in third-party repair shops. So, yeah, whenever a big company like this has a snafu like this, you start to look at intent. You start to look at why did they do this? What could the reasoning? What could the what could the benefits be to the company that did this? And yeah, there's a lot of benefits. Like they said, you could hurt your trust in the idea that I could take it to a third party, but Apple may or may not, kind of make it work or not the next day. The point is, Apple would undoubtedly, and we've seen this through court cases, would undoubtedly only prefer you to repair your devices through Apple. It makes them money. It's keeps them from having to deal with other vendors, so it's a little bit easier on their side. And there's just a lot of benefits. And of course, the downside is, as a consumer, you lose your choice of, picking who you want to repair your phone, and that could lead to things like higher prices or just any number of problems. So suffice to say, this appears to be a bug, whether it was intentional or not. We've heard weirder things in the past, but for now, we're just going to assume this was not a bug. This was a bug, and it just happened to affect non-Apple components. So there you go. And again, it should be fixed here in the next couple of days. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to, and again, we have a ton of computer and technology news stories. If you want to check out any of these, please feel free to head on over to our website, and you can find all of them right there in the show notes. All right. So this is a company we had on the show. We had them on a couple of times. Really do like their products. They promise a lot, and they, we like the idea, essentially. That's what it comes down to. We like the idea of Elio Motors. They're a company that is essentially selling you a motorcycle, but like the hardware, the mechanics, the engine, everything is essentially a three-wheeled motorcycle. But it has a kind of a car shell to it. So you're not open air. You have windows you can put up and down. You have an AC. You have, you have two seats, but the seats are not side by side like in a traditional car. They're kind of like a motorcycle again. You have someone who could sit in the back, or I think the chair folds down and you have just a little bit of trunk space. The point is, this thing's supposed to be super efficient and a way for people who maybe can't or won't or don't want to ride a motorcycle. They get all the benefits, including fuel efficiency, cheapness of the actual thing. This thing's just really cool. And again, if you are really interested, feel free to go diving in the archives and you can find our interviews with them. But turns out getting a product to market is not the easiest thing in the world. And Elio just got saved by a familiar name, Overstock.com. And they said that thanks to a $2.5 million lifeline that Elio Motors just received from Overstock, and it's also launching a secure token offering to help keep the company alive. That's not good. And that's not good for a lot of reasons. I think people are pretty wary of cryptocurrency at the moment. I don't even need to get into why people are wary of it, but these initial coin offerings, and even if it's a secure token offering, seems to be just another way of, we've seen it in the past where these token offerings do bring in a lot of money, but I feel like I'm not saying that Elio would do this, but there are people who used initial coin offerings or secure token offerings to purchase and prey on people who were swept up in the hype of cryptocurrency. And I hope that Elio Motors is not doing that. So anyways, they said that they said that for a while, the pitch for Elio Motors' three-wheeler proved to be an attractive one, where around 65,000 customers put down a reservation, which costs anywhere between $100 and $1,000 per customer. So hey, there's your startup money. And the car, which the company just calls Elio, forces customers to trade the luxury and convenience of a more normal-sized car, but in return, they get a car that can run on 84 miles to the gallon for under $8,000. Again, essentially, you're getting the perks of a motorcycle, but you get windows. That's essentially how I feel about Elio. But unlike most of the other futuristic and environmentally conscious car startups at CES, Elio buyers could still fill up their ride at a traditional gas station. Right? Because again, it's just a reskinned motorcycle. So the company had trouble raising the hundreds of millions it believed it needed for production, which led to a delay. And at the same time, Elio Motors quickly burned through the cash that it did raise. And the company had mere thousands of dollars in the bank last summer, and with debts totaling in the tens of millions of dollars. Elio Motors had to furlough a significant portion of its workforce to stay afloat as it searched for around $100 million in funding. So, yeah, again, this is essentially bringing a motorcycle / car to market to sell to people. And it really goes to show just how much work other companies had to put into this. It's not cheap. It's very expensive to get those production lines moving with your product and finally getting something that people can purchase. It's a lot of startup capital. And, despite tons of people being interested in the finished product, getting it there, no one customer is ever going to do that for you. So, with that being said, they said that Elio Motors has a lease on an old GM factory facility in Shreveport, Louisiana, but its lack of funding led to tension with the community, according to late 2017 reporting. And despite the company's troubles, the original promise, a small, cheap car with big miles to the gallon, seems to be what wooed Overstock.com into investing. And they said that the founder and CEO, Patrick Byrne, said that he was in awe after just 5 minutes in the car. I am confident that this will become my car for at least 2/3 of the days that I drive, he said. And Byrne also said that he believes in Elio Motors' vision, calling the vehicle a win for America. So, yeah, again, the idea swayed a lot of people. Obviously, there's interest. $2.5 million does not get them to where they need to be, but $2.5 million does pay a lot of bills. So Elio, not gone yet, but there needs to be some kind of intervention here from a much bigger player. So we'll see what happens. But it's I was like keeping track of our past guests, and that was certainly one that really intrigued a lot of our listeners. So definitely want to stay on top of that. Let's hope they can pull it out, though. That's, again, cool concept. All right. So with that one said, I think we're going to save, we have a ton of stories about Facebook, and they came out with a bunch of kind of guidelines that let people know exactly what content is okay to have on Facebook. And yeah, we're going to cover that a bit later in the program. But for now, we're going to stick to some of the other stories that are not Facebook. And how about we talk? All right. This one, Roku TV. Roku, they are a product to help you stream content through this little device. Think Apple TV, think Amazon Fire Stick, think any number of these different, think any number of these different services. Well, one of the big holdouts, there's only been a few. The first one was HBO. Luckily, HBO saw the light and they twisted enough arms, and HBO broke free of the cable restrictions, and now you can go buy HBO, like HBO Go, HBO Now, whatever the service is called. You can go purchase that whenever you want. Feel free to. The next big one was sports. Although we are seeing a pretty big shift with sports, where Twitter, I think, got the rights to stream a couple football games last year, or being able to stream on gaming consoles. Sports is starting to break free from cable. And one of the last holdouts, because it's just not an easy thing to bring to a streaming service, is live news. And yes, you can get those with rabbit ears, but people really don't like setting up antennas. Well, you're in luck. Roku is getting free live news, and that's starting with ABC. That's right. So this, according to DaVinci Hardware and Gadget, great publication, and they're saying that if there's one thing streaming video watchers love, it's free stuff, of course. And they said that it wasn't a huge surprise to see Roku launch a free ad-supported movie channel of its own last year. Well, now we have ABC News Live, which is a 24/7 online offering, and an offering that can compete with CBS's own online-only news channel. So they said that there will also be live streams for Cheddar, People TV, and Newsy, so a couple more channels thrown in there. So, like they said, it may seem like what's old is new again, but it's a smart move for Roku, since it's making its streaming platform much more useful, of course, for consumers. And more importantly, it gives them one more reason to stick around. So, like I was saying, it's we're going to pretty much wrap it up there. ABC News is coming to Roku. I don't think that's, the kind that you see on cable. Rather, it's a different type of ABC News that will have probably almost the exact same coverage, just in a bit of a different format. And it's coming to Roku. Like I said, news has been a pretty hard nut to crack on streaming devices. Live content isn't taking off on Netflix. We saw Netflix have a couple of live performances on their platform, and let's just put it like this: Netflix doesn't share numbers. They don't share, how many people watched, or they don't share how much money that they earned, or things like that. But you can kind of tell how things went by what they're doing. And Netflix is not flocking to additional live content. So it's just not an easy thing to, kind of put forward. But it's something that a certain segment of the population has really been holding off on cutting the cable, is because it's seen as one of the last few ways that you could actually get live news was to have cable. And the moment that that jumps the gap from only cable to internet and cable, we're going to see a pretty big blow to the cable industry. It's just how it's going to be. So, just like console exclusives for video games, you have news for cable. And, well, Roku is closing the gap. So, there you have it. All right. So, let's see. All right. From video to video, let's talk about YouTube. YouTube has been under a lot of scrutiny lately. Because of a couple of different issues. One is from content creators where they are getting flagged over and over and over again for having problematic videos. And that's a big problem because when content creators put their videos on YouTube, they assume that they're going to get a certain portion of ad revenue. They assume that they're going to make a certain amount of money. And when YouTube automatically flags these videos for either removal or, in other cases, just simply not suitable for advertisers, they don't earn the living that they expected to. And this has led to a lot of deterrence for people to actually look to other places other than YouTube to try to earn money. So, with that being said, YouTube's been getting flack from content creators, but YouTube has also been catching flack from advertisers because sometimes advertisements are seen alongside videos that are legitimately bad videos. They are conspiracy videos. They are videos that promote violence against certain people. They are videos that are disturbing for all audiences. As you know, as this article states from PC Mag, they're problematic videos. And it turns out YouTube has removed 6.7 million videos. 6.7, that's a lot of videos. And they said that most of the videos, about 76%, were removed before they received a single view. So we're seeing the power of YouTube bots, but we also see the problem where it's not going to solve everything. So here we go. And again, this coming from PC Mag, Mr. Michael Can, where extremist videos are disappearing from YouTube at a faster clip, and all due to computer algorithm, of course. And from last October to about December, YouTube's machine learning systems helped it delete 6.7 million with an M videos over things such as sexual imagery, spam, or terrorist content. All big problems on a service that kind of bills itself as, the melding of a lot of different audiences, from kids to teenagers, adults, whatever. They really don't want content offending really any of those segments of the population, which can be hard. So, on the flip side, the computer algorithms failed to prevent the remaining videos from gaining a brief audience. And YouTube said that the platform was originally slower when it came to taking down extremist video clips. And they said that, for example, at the beginning of last year, 8% of videos flagged and removed for violent extremism were taken down with fewer than 10 views. So before they could pick up any kind of steam, that's when they were taken down. So let's see. Let's pick through this article a bit. But they said that our advances in machine learning enabled us to take down nearly 70% of violent extremism content within 8 hours of upload, and nearly half of it in less than 2 hours. You can see where YouTube's algorithm is getting really, really good. But like I said at the top, it's also getting very, very strict in doing things that it shouldn't do. So we're going to talk about that and more when we come back here. More Computer America right after this. Everyone stay tuned. And music means we're going to take a break. We'll be right back right after this, everyone. Stay tuned.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
Hello, and welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here with computer and technology news, dedicating this entire show to the latest articles and, hey, stuff that you need to know about as soon as you can. So, with that being said, welcome back to the show. If you missed any part of today's show, please feel free to head on over to Computer America or wherever you download podcasts, because Computer America does have a version of the show that is, well, hey, the podcast, and it's just a rebroadcast of everything that we do here during the live show that you can hear on IRN. So check it out. And in the meantime, we continue on with computer technology news brought to you by OWC. And yeah, let's go ahead and wrap up this one. So YouTube, like we've said, it's the computer algorithms, they're getting stricter, they're getting better, but at the same time, the rise of false positives continues to grow as well. So whether the computer algorithm can be effective at grayer areas of content moderation is, of course, its own area of debate. But for now, YouTube said its machine learning system is focused on flagging the most egregious video clips, such as those that incite violence or contain child abuse. And more to that last point, one example I will give you of a video, and actually two examples, one personal and one just trending. A personal one would be YouTube obviously felt that a lot of content having to do with hacking or Russian hacking or things like that would eventually lead you to conspiracy theories involving, how do we put it? Conspiracy theories involving the Clintons, the 2016 presidential elections, so on and so forth. Russian hacking played a big part in that. And so, at least here on the program, when we upload videos or we did videos live over on YouTube, we covered Russian hacking because we are a computer and technology show and we had security experts on. We, obviously try to do our research, and we were not promoting hacking. We were not showing how to do hacking. We were simply reporting on actual events. We were not, pushing any conspiracy theories. These were things that could be proven. Well, we found that any video where we mentioned Russian hackers was demonetized the next day. Honestly, not that big a deal to us, but it did just go to show that the computer algorithm that was in charge of determining if advertisers were safe to be on a video would just carte blanche take away anything about Russian hackers. This, and you can see where this could really be a problem. And again, that was a personal story. One that isn't so personal, but you can still find it. It's like number 22 on trending. Last time I checked, it's like Kurzik something or other. They have a very popular YouTube channel. They put very well animated and researched videos up on YouTube, and they come out with one every month or so. They're a big deal, and they do make a lot of money. They get millions of views guaranteed, and yeah, it's real money for the organization and the channel to continue to function because they, they're a professional operation that earns their money strictly through YouTube. Well, they titled their video, which again is still like top 20 in trending, how to build the world's biggest bomb or something or the universe's biggest bomb. Essentially, the video, you should definitely go watch it, by the way, very interesting, was explaining how future civilizations could work to harness black holes as sources of energies or as sources of energy. And yeah, one of the ways that they did it would essentially turn a black hole into a sort of bomb. Where, it had the term bomb in it, but it was talking about something that was at the same time nowhere near offensive or any way feasible to ever hurt anyone, really ever. It was explaining a concept in science. And yeah, it was demonetized strictly for that. There was nothing offensive about the content. It was strictly because of one little word. The machine learning flagged it and took it down. Obviously, needs work, not foolproof. In YouTube, they're tweaking it. It's just how quickly can they tweak it, because they do have a video problem. They do have a duty to make sure that the wrong kinds of videos do not find a home on their platform. But they also have one to not overly take down, be aggressive to people who legitimately just use their platform as it was intended. So, we'll see how YouTube manages to handle that. So, with that being said, in the meantime, why don't we go ahead and talk about, I think now's a pretty good time to talk about Facebook. So we're going to touch lightly on a couple of these, and we're going to explain, if you have been under a rock, about Facebook, what it's going through, and finally get into this article about Facebook and what they actually, kind of want from people. So, and you can find a link to all this again in the show notes, because there's some stuff that we're going to gloss over that you should probably read if you are at all interested. But let's start with this first one. And this is a point we've made a couple of times. So CNBC, and they say that researcher behind Cambridge Analytica scandal, Mark Zuckerberg, is totally a hypocrite. And saying that, again, the security researcher behind Cambridge Analytica, or at least, the data scientist, says that Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg is totally a hypocrite, where The Guardian reported that the political data research firm, Cambridge Analytica, harvested as much as 87 million Facebook profiles. That's right. A lot of people were caught up in this. And it didn't take a lot for you to be, quote unquote, scraped. Now, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, in testimony before Congress, said that the actions of Cambridge Analytica were not acceptable, which at its very base level, you have to see that he's right there, because they changed their policies in 2014 so that this couldn't happen again. So, on some level, he's right. But if you look a bit deeper, he's saying that, again, the data scientist behind Cambridge Analytica said that what he did was common. In reality, the truth is we've got tens of thousands of other apps who did the same thing, and probably a much bigger scale than me. Of course, this is a quote. And saying that, and they're all out there on Facebook, and Facebook has no accounting for it. So he says that, but he's being a little disingenuous because he's not saying that, well, yes, this was common practice, the practice itself was shut down. So while we're talking about Cambridge Analytica, there are many others who did this as well. I think Cambridge Analytica is just in the spotlight because, first of all, people like a singular name. They don't like naming 10,000 different apps. But it's also for the fact of how the data was utilized. And political motives are a much more interesting way to go about it than, random Chinese company has a database full of potential customers that they're going to maybe advertise to. It's just a bit more appealing for the media to latch onto. But he's right. Their company was not the only one to do something like this. And he says that Facebook is trying to distract. They're trying to make the story about, hey, it's a rogue agent and he transferred the data. And that's not really the case. So he added that the company's business model is the real issue, saying that their model is built on selling ads, and to sell ads in social media, you want to find the right person in the right place at the right time to serve them the correct ad. And that's your advantage over TV, where to do that, you want to know as much as possible about people. Now, if Facebook actually has to back up a minute and get less data and get people to opt in, it's a real threat to the business model. So with that being said, I think we're going to, kind of drop that one off there, but Facebook isn't done there. Because we go from, kind of what Facebook did wrong, and people were using Facebook's, we've mentioned this before, people were using Facebook's platform as intended for the wrong use. And that seems to be everyone's problem. Things have changed, things continue to change. And one way we're seeing that is finally, after 22 years, you heard that right, 22 points. After 14 years, we're finally getting to the heart of what Facebook approves as far as content goes on their platform. And this includes things like advertising. So, and we have a link to this in the show notes. You can see it here on the video screen. But Facebook has finally put this one out, where they released a 22-point document that explains more fully what the community standards are and what is or isn't allowed on the platform. So they said that Facebook representatives declined to respond to R's request for comment on the record, insisting that we speak to them only on background. It is not clear why the company, after so long, is finally releasing its guidelines, but Facebook also noted that the newly published standards closely mirror our internal guidelines. So, with that being said, they said that the new rubric, which was released today, attempts to explain in plain English, so not legalese, always nice to see, how Facebook thinks about its seemingly reluctant role as a regulator. And other tech companies, notably YouTube, have been attempting to make their internal standards process more clear to their user base. And let's see. So the company also noted that for the first time, it will add a formal appeals process to challenge content removal. So if you want to read this thing in depth, then you can do so. Facebook.com/community standards, all one word. and you could find it right there. But it's pretty obvious. Facebook, much like YouTube, has a problem with how people are using the platform, for what means, and, well, why are these things allowed? And I feel like if Facebook or if YouTube or any other social media, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever, found a way to say, this is what we approve of, this is not, if you see this, report it, then they may have an easier time of standing in front of people when something bad does happen, and it will happen because of just the very nature that you have billions of people using these systems. They have a way to look at their users and say, this was not condoned. This was not a good thing that we approved of. So they're working on it, and Facebook, they can keep on trying, but it's, like I said, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. All right. So there's that one. Let's go ahead and slide away from all the Facebook news and try to get something a little bit more interesting. So, all right. Nintendo Switch. It's a pretty successful console. I think as far as consoles go, people seem to like it. And hey, it's, something that while it may not seem very important to some people, you still don't want security flaws to happen because it is just a gaming console. I don't think anyone is keeping the passwords to the Pentagon in there, but hey, you don't want something that maybe kids handle to be hacked or exploited in certain ways. Well, that's unfortunate because this article from Engadget says that there might not be a way around it, and that hackers find an unpatchable way to breach the Nintendo Switch. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into this. But security researchers from ReSwitched have discovered a Nintendo Switch vulnerability that could let hackers run arbitrary code on all current consoles. And again, for those of you living under a rock, Nintendo Switch is Nintendo's latest console and is set to have, as they claimed, a 10-year life cycle. Obviously, there will probably be iterations, but the Nintendo Switch is current and will stay current for quite some time, so that's not what you want to hear. So they dubbed it the Frozen Rocket exploit. It exploits buggy code in the NVIDIA Tegra X1's USB recovery mode, bypassing software that would normally protect the critical boot ROM. Most worrisome for Nintendo is that the bug appears to be unpatchable and could allow users to eventually run pirated games. Dun dun dun. The dreaded pirated games. And while it may not be the biggest issue, obviously something that Nintendo with a closed system would very, very, very much like to avoid, even though might not be able to. So the exploit involves kicking the Switch into USB recovery mode by shorting a pin on the right-hand Joy-Con connector, and a payload is then sent at a crucial point during the USB check, forcing the system to request up to 65,000 bytes per control request, much more than it can handle. And that causes a DMA buffer overflow in the boot ROM, blah, 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 giving hackers access to the normally protected application stack. So from there, they can then run whatever code that they want. So unfortunately, unlike the one in your PC, the Tegra X1 boot ROM on the Switch is hard-coded and can't be changed once it leaves the factory. That would be fine if it were secure, but unfortunately, it has the bad length error built in, so there's nothing that NVIDIA or Nintendo can do to fix the 14.8 million units already shipped. So, that being said, let's go ahead and skip a bit here. They said that Nintendo does have some options, as it might be able to detect hacked systems and lock them out of online play. It also It's also not a given that games can be hacked just because the system has been exposed, as they have their own encrypted DRM built in. Of course, we've seen DRM not exactly foolproof. If people are super interested and people actually want to hack a game, yeah, they're probably going to get into it. DRM, not much of a stopgap measure. So, Reswitch decided to reveal the exploit in a limited way, but will release further details and guides on how to use it by June 15th. Other groups are also apparently on the job too, where Fail Overflow teased a Dolphin emulator running Legend of Zelda Wind Waker on a Switch earlier and has now released its own exploit on the Nintendo Switch Linux loader. So the point here is that these exploits, while most people will never use them and they don't strictly have a security, kind of problem built into them, for Nintendo, this is one thing that I'm sure they spent a lot of time trying to make sure wouldn't happen. And yeah, now we're in a situation where it has happened, and now Nintendo has to think about this going forward with their product. So, yep, and again, you can check that out there at Computer America with the show notes. We have a link to it, but hey, pretty cool. Well, cool if you're not Nintendo. Let's put it that way. So with let's see. So there's that one. Yes, and some of these are just weird. All right, this one should be pretty quick. The article is pretty long, but we're just gonna give you the gist of it. And the gist of it is that, well, Amazon can now deliver their package because Amazon is delivering tons of packages. Amazon can now deliver their package directly to not your front door, not inside your door, but in your trunk of your car. And they said that in-car delivery is an extension of the existing Amazon Key service, which allows you to give the delivery driver access to your house with the help of a compatible keypad on your door and a smart security camera. It's worth pointing out that from the outset that Amazon delivery drivers won't track you down wherever you are and deliver to your car. This is about delivering to your stationary car in your driveway or an office parking lot. So, yeah, pretty important to note. If you're out running errands or if you are, kind of doing something, they won't find you in a parking lot of a grocery store. They won't find you in the parking lot of like a movie theater. Instead, you can either put in your home address or your office address, and then you can, it says that it's only available for GM cars with an active OnStar subscription and Volvos with an active Volvo on-call account. So essentially, these systems that have the ability to lock or unlock your car with a, with some kind of outside help, again, something like OnStar, that's their ticket in. That's how they get in. They don't have a copy of your car key. They don't have the ability to technically start your car, but they do have enough access through these third-party organizations to at least pop the trunk and put something in the back of your car, which can then be used to, just store your package while it goes. I'm sure that these same organizations, they would prevent any kind of attempt at stealing the car. They would monitor your car as the service kind of promises to make sure that it's not taken. But it's another step in the direction where if you just heard the headline, Amazon wants access to your car as well as your house, you can make some pretty sensationalist claims about the ability of Amazon to do, to gain access to your privacy. So, I think we're going to leave that there. Nothing else to say about that. If you want that, that would all be handled through your Amazon account. And again, it's an extension through the Amazon Key, or Yeah, I think it's the Amazon Key service. Yes, that's right. So there you have it. So, hey, maybe if you don't want them in your front door, but you still need to make sure that your packages arrive safely, you could have them put it in the back of your car, and that's an equally safe place to put it. All right. So, let's see. We have time for just one more story. Not much, but a couple of these that we're not going to be able to get to. Let's go ahead and do this one. So, hackers. They're fun. They're fun to talk about, at least. They're not fun when they're on the other end of trying to hack you. And this coming to us from The Verge, Mr. Russell Brandon, saying that, hackers emptied Ethereum wallets by breaking the basic infrastructure of the internet. Which, when you talk about basic infrastructure, that's not that hard to do. It's a known entity. You know what you're getting into. So, yeah. And as I understand it, it's this is a pretty interesting hack. So, at midnight Eastern time last night, my Ether wallet users started noticing something odd. Where connecting to the service, users were faced with an unsigned SSL certificate, a broken link on the site's verification. And it was unusual, but it's the kind of thing web users routinely click through without thinking. So SSL, we talked about this with a guest. He was trying to push a different standard than SSL, but essentially it's a website paying a third party, be it anyone who issues these certificates, and the third party tells you that yes, this website is who they say they are because they have a matching code that we sold them. So you can trust them because you can trust us that they are who they say they are. That's essentially how all this handshaking works. So there was a broken SSL certificate, so a little notification will pop up. It says that they were unable to verify that this user is who they say they were, and like they said, a lot of users would just ignore that as something inconvenient. So they said that anyone who clicked through this certificate warning was redirected to a server in Russia, which proceeded to empty the user's wallet. Dun, dun, dun. And judging by wallet activity, the attackers appear to have taken at least $13,000 in Ethereum during 2 hours before the attack was shut down. And the attacker's wallet already contains more than 17 million Ethereum. That's right, $17 million worth of Ethereum was found on the wallet. So, adding 13,000 to it, so maybe this is some kind of ongoing hacking wallet. So my Ether wallet confirmed the attack in a statement on Reddit saying that, quote, "We are currently in the process of verifying which servers were targeted to help resolve the issue as soon as possible, and that we advise users to run a local copy of my Ether wallet." So with the attackers don't seem to have compromised the application itself. Instead, they attacked the infrastructure of the internet, which intercepted the DNS request for my Ether wallet through certain DNSs. Essentially, they were able to get in and redirect certain parts of the transaction. So there you have it, everyone. We are just about done here on Computer America. I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the program. If you enjoyed what we did, please feel free to check us out at computeramerica.com. And in the meantime, catch us tomorrow, same time, same place, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. And hey, tomorrow on the show, let me get this correct. We will be having, let's see, we got this. Tomorrow on the program, we will have on the show Scott Schober. And Scott Schober, we're going to cover a couple of topics we weren't able to cover last month. But he is a security-minded individual. And hey, it's going to be a lot of fun. So until next time, everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. And hey, catch us tomorrow. Bye, everyone.